while they're talking.
The office, the gym, wherever you are.
Get on the YouTube channel. The whole gang's there.
KIRO News Radio. 97.3 FM. Powered by MyNorthwest.com.
Looking for even more Seahawks content? Then you gotta check out The Reset. Hey, it's G. Scott, and every week, me and my co-host and Seahawks great Brandon Meebane talk Seahawks. We break down the matchups, and we're joined by former Seahawks players.
From Lakewood to Lombardi, Seahawks champion, my main man, Jermaine Kearse.
What up, G?
Watch The Reset live on YouTube or subscribe on the Seattle Sports app.
From Cornish College of the Arts at Seattle University, good evening to you and welcome, and thanks so much for being with us tonight. I'm John Hopperstad with Fox 13 Seattle, and this is your debate between candidates for King County Executive. I'm joined by Angela Poe Russell, freelance journalist and host of Community Voices on Converge Media. This program brought to you by the Seattle CityClub, and we'd like to thank our premier media partners who are bringing the debate to you live tonight. Seattle University for hosting us at the Racebeck Auditorium, our production partner WV Livestream, and other event sponsors. Now, we're going to be asking a range of questions tonight based on the most pressing issues facing our region right now. The rules are simple. Each candidate will have 90 seconds for an opening statement. They will then have 60 seconds to answer initial questions, and we will lead a moderated discussion with 30 seconds for follow-up questions or rebuttals. Each candidate will then end with a 90-second closing statement. Now, we've asked our live audience to remain respectfully silent from here on out. No cheers or boos, except for right now, as we thank our candidates, Girmay Zahilay and Claudia Balducci. Let's welcome them to the stage. All right, let's get into it here. Thank you both for being here tonight. We tossed a coin backstage to determine who would make the first opening statement. Councilmember Zahilay, you won, and you elected to go first.
I hope I hear I win in November, too. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Angela. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to Fox 13, Seattle CityClub, and everybody who made this happen today. Thank you to my colleague, Claudia, for being here. My name is Girmay Zahilay. I'm the chair of the King County Council, and I'm running for King County Executive because I believe we can create a region of safety and opportunity for everyone. And I believe this because I know what this region was for me and my family. When we came here as refugees when I was 3 years old, King County gave us the tools that we needed to rebuild our lives. Affordable housing, good public schools, good jobs. All those things allowed me to go from experiencing poverty in South Seattle to graduating from Stanford, getting my law degree, practicing law at some of the top law firms in the country, working at the Obama White House, and now serving as chair of the King County Council. But I'm running today because that story of progress and prosperity is out of reach for way too many people. We have an astronomical cost of living, a massive shortage of affordable housing, a federal government that continues to attack our communities. I am the candidate who has the track record, the vision, and the relationships to deliver for the people of King County. Our work has put more money in people's pockets, more roofs over people's heads, and connected people to care when they needed it most. But there is so much more work to do. I hope that I can earn your support so that we can work together to deliver accountability, results, and hope. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you, Councilmember Balducci. You have 90 seconds.
Thank you so much. My name is Claudia Balducci, and I am running for King County Executive because this is a challenging time. And our county needs experienced, values-driven leadership that can deliver results for the people of King County. Public service runs in my family. I was raised by a public school, elementary school teacher. My brother is a retired firefighter and a survivor of 9/11, and my stepfather was a retired court officer. And I myself have been a public servant for over 25 years, and I do that because I believe in my heart that when government, local government especially, works well, it makes people's lives better. I started out in law fighting against discrimination against women, LGBTQ plus people, and fighting for reproductive rights. I've worked at King County starting at the line level and rising up to run one of the biggest departments in the county with an over $100 million budget. I'm a former mayor of the second largest city in this county. I know how to make local government work. And we need that now more than ever, because although we have a $10 billion annual budget at King County, are we making the kind of progress we need to on homelessness, on housing, on public safety, on transit, all the things that matter and make our communities healthy and strong? We need to do better. And as we have our federal government now actually acting against us, it's even more important that local government work. Thank you for your time tonight.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, first question. This one is kind of, I don't know, the elephant in the room or the elephant on the campaign trail. What makes you two different? Councilmember Balducci, you have a ton of experience in public service. Councilmember Zahilay, you've served one term on the council. But other than that, some voters are having a hard time telling where you differ on policy issues or your approach to them. So what do you believe sets you two apart? Councilmember Zahilay, I'll start with you. 60 seconds.
Thank you so much for that work. I believe that my colleague, Councilmember Balducci, would make a great executive. I'm not running a contrast campaign. For me, when I think about the scale of the issues in front of us, they are too large and too complex for any one person or any one level of government to solve them alone. Our fates, our ability to solve these problems depend on collective action. And when I see it through that lens, it becomes bigger than me or anyone else. What matters most is who can effectively collaborate with every level of government and every private sector and nonprofit sector to solve problems. If King County has to work with the state of Washington to solve some of our most intractable problems, our coalition includes the governor, the attorney general, and more state level elected officials than any other candidate. If we have to work with our federal delegation to protect us from the federal government, the members of Congress who represent the vast majority of King County, Pramila Jayapal and Adam Smith, have chosen this campaign. If we have to work with the King County Council on the budget issues—
And that is time. And I do have a follow-up question. Considering all the challenges you talked about, wouldn't experience be an asset here?
Experience is absolutely an asset, and I would love it if we talked about experience. As budget chair, I've worked to balance a multi-billion-dollar budget just this past year. As chair of the King County Council, I have hiring and firing abilities. I have managed a large team. I have brought together 9 different council members to focus on common objectives. I've led a nonprofit and grown it to multiple cities, managing hundreds of volunteers to provide mentorship training to some of our lowest income and most and young people who are facing the biggest challenges.
And that is time. Thank you so much. Councilmember Balducci.
Thank you. You put your finger on it. The main distinguishing factor, I think, between the two of us is our experience and our record of accomplishment. So when we talk about the issues that matter most, how are we going to provide affordable housing? How are we going to provide for people in homelessness? How are we going to finish our transit system and provide for public safety? I'm the only candidate has got deep executive experience doing all of those things. The executive runs a 18,000 person county and a $10 billion annual budget, and also has to drive issues from conception through solutions through implementation. My track record includes expanding light rail to East King County, Linwood, and very soon to Federal Way, Kent, and Highline. It includes building coalitions of local elected officials to create the first ever full suite of homeless shelters, permanent supportive housing, and a lot of affordable housing in East King County. These sorts of experiences, pushing really big rocks up really big hills and delivering results, is going to help us get started on day one as county executive.
Okay. Would you like to respond to that?
Absolutely. Since we're talking about track records, I'll talk about bringing together labor and business to help increase the minimum wage to put more pockets and more money in people's pockets. That's our track record. We brought together labor, business, service providers to propose the Crisis Care Centers initiative, which is going to build 5 different crisis care centers around the region where people can walk in and get access. Our track record is making transformational investments in underserved neighborhoods like Skyway. So for the first time, they have things like community centers, affordable housing, more transit, sidewalks, things that families need to survive. Thank you so much.
I want to talk about the Department of Community and Health.
He got 2 follow-ups. May I have a follow-up?
Yes, we'll give you 30 seconds.
Thank you. I just want to say the distinction here is crisis care centers a wonderful and important piece of infrastructure. And my colleague worked very hard to get that passed on the ballot. The executive has to implement. We haven't put one single crisis care center out there into the world yet. Compare that to...
Just to check, there's one in Kirkland.
It was built by the cities of Kirkland and the North End cities. The county came along afterward and became a financial partner. We did not create that.
All right, I'll give you back that time.
Thank you. And by contrast, I have worked with Sound Transit and with cities and local partners to create thousands of roofs, affordable homes over people's heads next to light rail, to create planning that is building towards hundreds of thousands of new homes because of the work we have done together. The scale is large, the county is large, and we really need somebody who can drive change right away, not just through budget earmarks and legislation. Thank you.
I want to talk about the Department of Community and Health Services because, as you both know, an audit recently revealed widespread problems, including millions of dollars of mismanaged money, fraud, and abuse. Public trust in government already strained. So how do you regain the trust of the people in the county? And Claudia, I'll go with you first.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that audit was eye-opening. It should be a wake-up call for King County, and the next executive has to work very hard. It's easy to lose trust. It's harder to gain it back. The first thing we need to do is complete a review of the entire DCHS budget, the department's budget, because we don't know the extent of the problem yet. We had an audit of 36 contracts out of almost 600 in this funding source. We don't know where all the problems are. We don't know what all the results are. We need to understand that and then scale solutions. Then we have to be very transparent about what we do to fix the problem. I do believe that we're going to need multiplicity of responses, but first understanding the problem and understanding how government contributes to the problem by having big ambitions and running after them and not setting up the infrastructure around it to make it a success.
Girmay, I want you to talk about this as well. But first, I want to mention that I have been told by previous council members that this was an issue that was brought up to all of you over the past few years. And I'm just curious why there wasn't oversight before now. And go ahead, I'll ask you that question.
The results of that audit were absolutely unacceptable. As people who are trusted with taxpayer dollars, we have a paramount duty of protecting that. That is number one. That is why, long before these results were even released, our campaign released our King County Delivers Plan, which is a plan exclusively dedicated to government accountability, efficiency, and transparency. We didn't wait to react to this issue. We said this is a central theme of our administration, and we will treat it like that. What it calls for is an Office of Internal Audit so that we are proactively auditing every single department, not just in DCHS, but across all of the vast King County government services. It calls for quarterly reports. Just like a public company, as a form of accountability to its shareholders, has to release, here's what we did, here's what we created, here's what we're doing for you. King County should do that too. We don't currently do that. So for me, quarterly reports will mean here's the money that we collected, here are the programs that we launched, and here are the outcomes that we produced based on your tax dollars. Because we can't celebrate for spending, we have to celebrate based on outcomes.
That is time.
Okay, let's talk about public safety. King County just held its first ever, the inaugural Summit for Crime Survivors. Both of you attended. I'd love to know, based on what you experienced and heard during the summit, how has your position evolved when it comes to crime and punishment? And I'll start with you, Councilmember Zahilay.
Thank you so much. Crime and public safety are complex topics because you can tackle them from prevention all the way through to emergency response, and we need all of it. We need the full continuum. From prevention, that means communities need to have the things that they need to live safe lives. We need affordable housing, we need mental health services, we need good education, we need youth prevention programs, so many things. And then on the emergency side, absolutely, we need an emergency response system that can come out that matches the type of emergency that people are seeing on the ground, whether that is violent crime or that's a mental health crisis, or if it's a simple code enforcement issue, we should have the type of responses that people can rely on for quick responses so that they can get the help that they need. That means we need a stable criminal justice system. I was proud to be the prime sponsor of our criminal justice sales tax, which is going to prevent massive cuts to our criminal justice system, from our courts to our sheriff's office to our public defenders. We need to invest in that.
All right, that is our time. I'd love to know, though, just did you feel like your views evolved in some way by being at this summit?
I don't think the summit made my views evolve, because I represent a district that is suffering from lots of crime. A lot of my job is not just sitting at the council chamber and legislating. I am out in the community. I'm on the phone regularly, more than I like to admit, with mothers who've lost their children to gun violence. People in my district have bullets going through their doors. These are issues that I face every single day, and I'm setting up responses, supporting our victims, supporting the survivors so that they can have the resources they need to survive.
Thank you so much for that response. Councilmember Balducci, the question was based on your experience at the summit. How has your position evolved on crime and punishment?
Thank you so much. I really was moved by that Crime Survivor Summit. I sat at a table with mothers of murdered children and got to hear their stories in that setting. There was a statistic that was quoted that 14% of the funding that goes towards either offenders or victims or survivors goes to victims and survivors. That means 86% of the funding that we put into these kinds of services goes to dealing with offenders. And now, it's very easy to break people into boxes, and we shouldn't do that. People are complex. They have all kinds of needs, and all kinds of, you can be a victim one day, you can be an offender the next, right? Mm-hmm. But we really need to do better. I walked away from that feeling moved. As the only candidate in the race who actually is a public safety professional and former leader of a public safety department, we don't do enough for victims and survivors of crime. And as executive, I would absolutely lift up those issues and bring them into decision-making in a way we haven't before.
Okay, based on that, I do have a follow-up question. In Washington State, as both of you know, under current law, a teen caught with an illegal firearm can face no more than 30 days of detention until their 5th offense. Given the public safety risk involved with guns in the hands of youth, would you ask or work with the legislature to strengthen these penalties? Why or why not? And I'll start with you, Councilmember Balducci.
Thank you. You know, I've had a really in-depth conversation with leaders in this space, including prosecuting attorneys who work with juvenile detention and juvenile court, and with the sheriff's office, the prosecutors, et cetera. The challenge is there's no hook. Even if you want to provide supportive services, prevention services, help youth who may be getting involved with guns to get out of that before it's too late, there's no hook to get them to cooperate with a diversion program because there's no consequence. So yes, I would work on trying to make sure there was some way to do that.
Thank you. What about you, Councilmember Zahilay?
Yeah, when I first got on the King County Council, I sat with the prosecutor's office, and they showed us a map of the incident rate of gun violence and another map of poverty in King County, and it was almost the same map. And so we need to make sure that we are targeting the small sliver of the population that is experiencing all of these overlapping issues that is leading to a disproportional rate of gun violence. And we need to make sure that we're using carrots and sticks, have all the tools in our toolkit to be able to intervene before it's too late.
Okay, that's time, but just to clarify, so you would keep status quo or you would try to do something different? You could just answer that quickly.
I would definitely try to do something different.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's turn to homelessness. As you both know, it's been about 10 years since King County declared homelessness an emergency. Still a big problem, however. We all see it out there. Councilmember Balducci, some voters point out that despite your decades of experience in regional government, the county's really not made a meaningful dent in housing and homelessness. So how do you explain that, and why should voters think you can change anything now?
Thank you for that question. I agree 100% that we have to do better on homelessness. It is a collective shame on our community and our country that so many people are living on the streets. I made this a priority when I was the mayor of Bellevue. I made a handshake deal with the mayors of Redmond and Kirkland, and we took on a regional approach to try to create the first ever suite of homeless shelters and permanent supportive housing in East King County. There was never any permanent shelter like that prior to me becoming mayor, and we did it. And we created not only shelter for men, women, children, we also created affordable housing that could be moved into for working people with working wages, so that you have a path from crisis to stability. And we stood that up, and it's very successful, and it's helping in that era, in that region. What we need to do is scale. It needs to scale to the rest of the county. But I do know how to do this, and I do know that we can do it if we work together with our city partners through a regional approach. We can talk about KCRHA in the next time.
That is time. Councilmember Zahilay, you said something needs to be done different surrounding this issue. What are some of your solutions?
Absolutely. So the King County Regional Homelessness Authority is good in the sense that we need a regional response to a regional problem. The goal of bringing all of our regional partners together under one roof to respond to this crisis is a good one. And it's also true that operationally this entity has not been producing what it's supposed to produce. So absolutely we need to do something different. There are 3 areas: scale, coordination, and accountability. My colleague mentioned scale. Absolutely. We need to scale up our emergency housing, our permanent supportive housing, the mental health and addiction services. That all needs to happen. And it's also true to ask voters to invest in what's needed to scale up. We need more accountability. We cannot tell them, give us more money into this entity that is not producing what it's supposed to. And so we need to do a Reset the Region tour, go around, talk to our regional partners, and see what would allow them to have the buy-in needed to truly make a regional response. And that requires accountability.
I want to ask you, because it has been under fire, the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. Are you all right with what is working? It doesn't sound like you are. Should it be disbanded?
I'm not ready to say it should be disbanded, but what I will say is the entity as it is currently constituted is not working. So if I am elected executive, I would be open to a full reset. That means not me unilaterally telling you what needs to happen, but really talking to our private sector, our public sector, our regional partners, our nonprofit sector, our people with lived experience, and saying, we all understand this is not working. Let's do something new, and new leadership is the opportunity to do that.
I want to let Claudia Balducci respond to that. Do you think it should be disbanded, or what should be done here?
I believe that we need to have a regional approach. The regional approach we are having has been a little bit like a lawnmower, pulling on the cord and not quite catching. And so we need to do something different. I have some ideas about that, but let me say, when I was the chair of the county council through the 3 years of COVID, and one of our first representatives to that body stepped away because of the problems, I assigned myself, and I've been in there trying to make it work. When my colleague became the chair, he assigned me to do it too. So I've been in there working the issue, and I will continue to do so. And I think I have a path. I don't have time to describe it.
All right, it's funny. I was going to skip the next question, but since you said you had ideas on this issue, I'll just lead on into it.
Yeah.
And it was about this regional challenge that we have. I want to say Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell said that 70% of people experiencing homelessness in Seattle came from other places. So you said you have some ideas.
Yes.
I want to give you a moment to just
Thank you.
expand on what steps you
I
would
really
take.
appreciate that. The mayor has also said, rightly, that the city of Seattle puts in by far the most money into the regional approach. King County is second. And then there's not a lot of other investment that goes into this version of a regional approach. However, most of the cities of any size in King County are actually devoting a fair amount of resources, people, money, to dealing with homelessness in their communities. What we don't have is alignment on goals, a clear plan, and then reporting out to ourselves and to our constituencies what we're doing. I think we can get those 3 things by taking a step back from having an independent agency and instead having an agreement among all the parties where we just commit to do things and to do it together. It's exactly how we did it between Bellevue, Kirkland, and Redmond. There was no separate agency. We just worked together. And I think that might be a path forward.
Did you want to expand on your Reset the Region tour?
Yeah, absolutely.
30 seconds.
My colleague is absolutely right. If this is going to work, it's going to need more buy-in from our regional partners, and they have lost faith in the entity. When I go and I talk to the mayors around the region, they say they don't want to contribute because they're tired of seeing mismanagement and dysfunction there. And so part of a Reset the Region tour is asking them, do you believe in a regional approach? And what would it take for you to have true buy-in? And that is part of what it will take to reset this. And so those are the kinds of things that we have to do differently.
Okay, one more question for you on this topic, Councilmember Zahilay. You have spoken publicly, even during this debate, about your background growing up, being a refugee, when you were really young, experiencing homelessness, living in a shelter. Based on your lived experience, what is something that people misunderstand about this issue?
That is such a powerful question. I would say people misunderstand the diversity of experiences of people who are experiencing homelessness. My family entered a shelter through the Union Gospel Mission in the Chinatown International District as a child because I had a single parent and she was working a lot of jobs and it wasn't enough. And so she had to leave it all and move into a shelter to make ends meet. That is a vastly different story than a lot of other people that we see. Some people left home because their families rejected them because they're gay, and so they have to live on the street now. Some people fell into addiction. Some people lost a job. And so there is no solving the homelessness crisis. We truly have to understand the nuances and the interconnection between a lot of overlapping issues in order to solve this. If we're talking about a specific segment of people who are experiencing substance use disorders, mental health issues, homelessness impacted by the criminal justice system, that's going to take a different approach than people who are just low income.
And that is time. I saw you nodding. Did you want to have 30 seconds here to just add to, you don't have to, but just wanted to offer.
I would love to. It was really powerful back and forth. Thank you for that. One thing I just would add to it is the whole discussion reminded me of something we know. You may have talked to the mayor candidates about sweeps and whether sweeps work. And the difference between a sweep where people show up and just say, go away, versus an encampment resolution where people come and work with the folks living in homelessness, get to know them, get to know their individual needs, what would help them, and then offer the help they need. That's what works, and we should fund that, and we should fund that this year.
Okay, thank you so much.
Can I add another? It's okay if you want to move on, no problem.
Let's move on because we're a little behind time here. And we want to talk about business and grocery stores. We all love to go to the grocery store, but Kroger, as you know, continues to close QFCs, particularly Fred Meyer's in King County. The latest one will be in Lake City. So this could create a real a grocery desert in some areas where people just don't have access to food, may not have access to transportation to get to the food. So I want to ask you, what are some of the options here? What will you do to change this? And we'll start with you, Councilmember Zahilay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Washington State absolutely has a big problem with retail theft. There is no doubt about it. And it's also true that we don't know what's leading Kroger to close down individual grocery stores in individual neighborhoods. The last I checked, they have not released their data publicly, and in a lot of these neighborhoods, crime trends are going down. People are admitting it even in the news stories. And so what I would do in response to these individual stores that are closing is probably something different than what I would do in general. With respect to these individual stores, we need to work collaboratively with Kroger, find out, have them release their data so that we can work and tailor real, honest solutions. When it comes to addressing this problem in general, we have to go after the big traffickers, the people who are organizing large retail theft rings. Those are the people committing the vast majority of this. And absolutely, we need to work with our prosecutor's office so that we can go after them and disrupt these before they continue going down that path. We also need to address food security in general.
That is time, but I want to let Councilmember Balducci address this as well.
Thank you. I heard the question a little differently. I started my political career because my neighborhood lost a grocery store. And we organized as community members to work with the city to try to provide land use incentives to entice stores back. And so that's about like economic development, working with community partners, working with neighbors, and then, recruiting businesses like you do in economic development so that a community has that kind of infrastructure. Throughout King County, we have a big role as a county. We can help with working with community-based organizations to directly address food deserts. We can provide, I'm losing my words, support in the technical assistance and funding. I didn't hear it just as a public safety question. Of course, retail theft has been a real challenge, and I hear about it from small businesses, many of them run by immigrants and people of color, hardworking people, and that's why I proposed the real retail theft approach.
Yeah, and I want to get into that as a follow-up here because you have advocated for a retail theft task force. What would that look like?
It's fairly simple. There was a pilot that was run in cooperation with the Attorney General's office earlier, either earlier this year or last year. And if we could bring together 2 detectives and a prosecuting attorney, they can help to coordinate across jurisdictional lines because that's a large part of how organized retail theft succeeds. If you're getting caught in Kirkland, you move to Auburn. If it's not working in Auburn, you go to Seattle. So the county's role is to help coordinate information sharing and then support the local jurisdictions.
And Councilmember Zahilay, I want to get your opinion on this because what you think about this task force. I believe it would cost about $600,000 a year.
I support the task force because the prosecutor, the city attorney, and the Retailers Association were already doing this work. And it's good anytime we can share information with one another and collaborate. I think that's a good thing. So extending it sounds like a good idea to me. I will say, though, that if we're doing this in response to a particular store closing and we don't know the reason why they are closing, I would not advocate that we take finite resources from an already strained criminal justice system when we have a whole lot of bigger topics, murder, assaults. Those are the priorities that the prosecutor is telling us that they want, and pre-committing it to a topic that we don't really understand.
I want to ask one more question on this because some think the community or the county should actually consider opening up stores where there are not stores currently, basically as a public utility. Should the county get into that kind of business? Councilmember Balducci, I'll ask you first.
It's not on my priority list. I believe that local government does the best for people when we do what our job is, when we provide public safety, transit, housing. We can work on economic development. We can support community-led initiatives to try to bring more groceries into the community. But when we get outside our zone, we don't do so well. The challenge we're having with opening things like crisis care centers and the health through housing hotels, we just are doing something new. It's something we never did before. We should partner with experts, and that is how you drive services faster and more effectively.
Councilmember Zahilay, you got a take on that?
My first job after college was in the anti-hunger space. We worked in low-income neighborhoods around the country, and we found out, why aren't people eating healthy? And the answer wasn't just poor choices, it was a lack of healthy food access. And so we worked with local governments to connect local bodegas and local corner stores with food banks and farms so that there is a direct pipeline from farm to table for communities to get access. So I don't know if launching stores for King County is in the works, but taking elements of that idea and connecting our farms directly to food banks and stores here so more communities can have healthy food access, I think is a great idea.
That is time. Let's talk about public transit here, and we got some breaking news. We love to talk about breaking news here in the news business. I just got an email in the last few hours, in fact, from Claudia Balducci's people that there is a report on making public transit safer that's going to be released on Monday, as you know. We've had a lot of violent incidents on buses and light rail. We had the tragic killing of bus driver Sean Yim. So Councilmember Balducci, you requested this report. What can you tell us about what is in it and what more needs to be done here?
I am a lifelong transit rider. I rely on that bus system more than the trains because I don't live too near the trains to get around. And we can't meet our transit goals, our economic goals, our equity goals if people don't feel safe riding the system that we all are investing in. After the murder of Sean Yim, our transit operator, I partnered with our transit union and Metro to run a transit safety task force. It was big. People came from all over King County, mayors and law enforcement and transit rider advocates and people who provide human services. And we are just now going to have a presentation at my committee on the 6th. I want to invite everyone to pay attention. And we'll lay out what all those recommendations are. I'm not going to be able to make news here because it's a long list of things and I don't want to sort of try to memorize it all. But what you'll find is it's, of course, like anything, a variety of law enforcement and security approaches, but also helping people and also making sure that we are reaching out to folks in need. It's a whole spectrum of response.
Councilmember Zahilay, I want to let you weigh in on this. What do you think needs to be done to make transit safer? in the community?
All of our communities, transit riders, operators, they deserve to feel safe when they take public transit. And that is one of the top issues that I hear about when people say they want to ride more transit. It's they want to feel safe on it. And so I was proud to, first of all, support the executive's investment of $26 million additional dollars for more transit security. I believe in a presence model of public safety. So the more professionals, the more customer service professionals, the more security professionals, the more mental health professionals that we can get on board, the safer people will feel. And we also have to remember, whatever happens out in the community is going to flow through transit as well. So we need safe neighborhoods. I was proud to support over several years safe reforms that allowed us to launch mental health and intervention programs at key transit stations like Burien and Aurora that have some of the top issues, to do more outreach to help people, connect people to services, activate those physical spaces, better lighting, better energy, more professionals. Those are what we need in the area surrounding transit.
And that is time. Thank you so much for answering that question. I want to stay on this topic of public transit because paying for security, safety, that's one aspect of it. But as we deal with rising costs, inflation, all being impacted by that, how do we continue to build reliable, functional transit without dealing with the budget uncertainty? How are you going to pay for this to keep things moving, so to speak? And I'll start with you, Councilmember Balducci.
Thank you so much. I'm going to take that as a question about sound transit and delivering on our regional transit system. I am very proud to have championed transit my entire career. We've opened more stations since I've been around than we had, we had zero when I first started. And so we are making a lot of progress. People can get around the region easier and better. By the way, tonight, after we're done here, if you drive across the I-90 bridge, you might see a train. I didn't answer the question because I was too excited about the train, but I will say very briefly, if you'll allow, I have been on the Sound Transit Board for 12 years now, and I have been pushing for small and large plans to get our costs under containment. The big thing right now, can we do without a second downtown tunnel? If we can save billions of dollars.
Well, that is what I want to follow up on here, because you're both on the Sound Transit Board. You know the West Seattle extension, that's going to cost hundreds of $millions more than anticipated. And this has really kind of pitted a couple of different versions here. We got the North Sound extension versus the extension into West Seattle and into Ballard. So as a county executive, which would you prioritize? And Councilmember Zahilay, we'll go to you.
May I answer the first question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So this is important because I need the audience to know that Metro Transit is not in good financial shape in the future. By 2031, they're going to tap out in their what's called undesignated fund balance. That means our policy commitments are going to outpace the revenue that's coming in. And so that means we have to do something and dial back on some of our policy commitments if we want to continue to have a financially healthy system. We can't do everything. The three top policy areas that King County Metro is invested in are more service hours, more rapid ride infrastructure, and more electrification. I like what the executive has done, which is prioritize service hours,
Okay,
deprioritize
that's time
some of
on
those
that, but I
others.
think you get additional time to answer because he responded to Balducci's question first.
And I went way
so now
over.
you get to, yeah. Well, we let you go
be
over about
fair.
15 seconds too, but we have someone keeping track. So
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so which one do you prioritize for the expansion here? North, South, West Seattle, Ballard?
Are we on Metro or Sound Transit?
Sound Transit.
Okay, can you repeat the full question?
Well, you know, the extension, the line, the one to West Seattle, hundreds of $millions over budget. So there's going to have to be some tough choices made. The Seattle mayor has come out and said it needs to be West Seattle, it needs to be Ballard, but you guys will be the county, you'll be the county executive for a large region. So where do you fall on this?
Yeah, Sound Transit is another agency where our revenues are going to fall short of the things that we want to do. And that's on a scale that's much larger than Metro. The last I checked, it could be up to $30 billion of deficits. That's a big problem. And so I support what the CEO has done, which is put forward an enterprise initiative, which is going to come back and give us a bunch of scenarios about how we move forward into the future.
And that is time.
That is time. Then we're going to.
Can I answer the question?
Well, you can, yeah, we'll give you 30 seconds.
Thank you. I support making sure we save the West Seattle to Ballard We cannot give up on serving the most dense transit markets in our system, and Ballard is that. I am proud to have been the leader that pushed the technical advisory group work that is reforming how we deliver projects. Lots of small things like how we do contracts and information sharing to save money. It's saving millions of dollars. I am proud to have been the Sound Transit board member to recommend maybe doing something different to save billions of dollars. My colleague has no plan and doesn't even know that West Seattle to Ballard was a light rail line until you described it to him.
And that is time on your rebuttal.
Wow.
Did you, when something like that happens, you are offered 30 seconds?
I think that's a very baffling statement to say what I know and don't know. That's pretty shocking. I will say that for me, I also prioritize our dense urban core, but I also think it would be a mistake to plant our flag on any one extension or any one scenario right now before we see the bigger picture. So what I've asked the agency to do is come back to us as soon as possible with all the different scenarios of the different combinations of things that we could choose from, and then make an educated decision based on the 3,000-foot view of the bigger picture.
All right, I want to talk about taxes here. The acting county executive is now saying it's going to need more money to fund Harborview and some of these health clinics. And she's proposing to raise taxes. And that, of course, always falls on homeowners. And a lot of homeowners say enough is enough. So what do you say to folks who say that? We've been taxed enough, find other ways. And Councilmember Zahilay, I'll go to you first.
They're absolutely right to feel that way. If you were to rank all 50 states based on how equitable their tax code is, Washington State would be number 49 out of 50. We have a very upside down tax code. We fund some of our essential services on the backs of middle income earners, homeowners, low income people, and that's unacceptable. The next King County executive should use their bully pulpit, continue to go down to Olympia and advocate for changes so that we can have more equitable options. Absolutely. But in the world that we live in, with all the limitations that we have, do I support the executive's proposal of taking that 10-cent rate to 15 cents to fund Harborview? Absolutely. We have to do it because Harborview is the most important hospital in the 4-state region. Thousands of people rely on it for the critical services just to survive. And so the short answer is yes. And we need to advocate for systemic change at the state level and work more efficiently at the King County level.
I do have a quick follow-up question because the answer was feels a little incomplete in the sense that the question wasn't really about whether the tax system was equitable and really more about for people who feel like, you know what, just enough with the taxes. This is a lot between the various cities and the state and the county. The taxes keep coming. So I think the question was, what would you say to those people who are like, you know what, enough with the taxes?
You are absolutely right, is what I would say to them. You are right. If you are looking at your property tax bill every year and saying it is unaffordable and that is a driver of unaffordability, yes, I raise my hand and say you are right, and let's work together to change that. Part of changing that, we have to include tax reform at the state level as a solution. That's the only long-term solution. And at the King County level, we have to be more efficient. We have to be more transparent. We have to rely on investing on the things that produce outcomes, because in addition to people saying they're overtaxed, they're also saying they're not seeing the fruits of their labor.
That is time, and I want to let Councilmember Balducci respond as well to this when taxpayers say enough is enough.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we have a fair amount of alignment on this issue. The tax system that funds basic county services is pretty broken, and so our costs go up as everybody's costs go up faster than the revenue that supports it. I will say this: we have had 6 different new or reconsidered taxes this year alone. 6, including a new sales tax for criminal justice, including a new an increased property tax for Harborview, including a new sales tax that is being proposed, this is not one of the 6, for rural roads. Our rural roads are falling apart. I have tried to create some conservatism in the sense of not running off with every single tax proposal. I'm the chair of something called our King County Transportation District. I have colleagues who would like to have taken up a new sales tax this year, and I have not taken that up because we have started to say, hit the wall.
Yeah.
But
So-
until the tax system's fixed, we're never going to get past it.
Yeah. So cuts might be an option. what would you prioritize first if you're King County executive and you have to be part of proposing cuts?
Right.
Where might you start? That's for you.
Oh, you're looking at me,
Councilmember
but you
Balducci.
said his name. Sorry, I was confused.
I apologize.
No,
That is
I'm
for you.
just-
Yes.
Okay. So we do this all the time, frankly. We do cuts and efficiencies many budget years. COVID was a significant outlier because of all the federal money that came through. But we have had to tighten the belt and tighten the belt and tighten the belt. What we don't do is a good job of showing the public where we're doing that. We try to be efficient. One place I would say that we could do better is we just voted to roll over a human services tax for 9 years without a plan on how we're going to spend it. How about we come up with a spending plan first, and then we can figure out whether we need that whole new tax.
Okay, that is time.
All right. Councilmember Zahilay.
Yeah, if you're looking for an example, I'll go back to the example I was giving earlier because I ran out of time. Metro is going to run out of money by 2031. They have a lot of policy commitments that they're not going to be able to pay for. Expanding service hours, building out infrastructure for what's called rapid rides, and then electrifying the fleet. If we have to prioritize within that, my number one priority is frequency and service hours. So that would be number one. After that, it would be infrastructure. And after that, it would be electrification. And the current executive prioritized it in that exact way. She expanded service hours, she dialed back on some infrastructure projects, and she delayed electrification. So that's an example of efficiency and delaying and scaling
and
back
that is
on
time.
policy
Thank you.
commitments.
And this does lead into affordability questions. Councilmember Balducci, you spent the last 10 years or so representing one of the wealthiest parts of our region, including parts of Bellevue and Mercer Island. Of course, you were the mayor of Bellevue as well. So why are you the better candidate on affordability?
I represent a part of King County where people who have good working jobs cannot afford to live, where my teenage kid probably doesn't have much of a future unless things change dramatically. The more expensive parts of King County are displacing people to areas, especially in South Seattle and South King County, where it is more affordable, but it's getting less affordable there too because of all the movement and displacement. Affordable housing affects us all in every part of King County. I don't want to live in an exclusive area. I want to live in a place where the nurses and the firefighters and the teachers can afford to live. And that's why I have made it a huge priority and have organized all of the cities of King County, including Seattle, and housing providers, and worked with Sound Transit to provide thousands of new homes right near light rail to do comprehensive planning for the very first time, where we are all planning for affordability. That's never happened before. That's because of my work, and I want to expand on that as county executive.
Councilmember Zahilay, you want to respond?
Yeah, I represent a district that is reflective of all of the challenges, diversity, and opportunities that exist across the whole region. One of the zip codes in my district, 98118, for many years was one of the most diverse districts in the whole country. And so when it comes to being able to represent wealthy neighborhoods like Laurelhurst and Ravenna in my district, or the lowest income public housing projects like Rainier Vista, New Holly, and even places in Skyway like Creston Point, which have such high levels of poverty, I am able to see those individuals and shape policies for them. I'm on the phone with them. They're telling me that they lost their job, they can't afford their rent, that their kids are getting into trouble after school and suffering from gun violence. I would take those experiences of representing that diversity and bring it to the executive level while remaining grounded in each of those communities, because I know that the people closest to the pain have to be closest to the policy, and that's the type of executive that I would be.
All right, thank you so much for that. Former King County Executive Dow Constantine made historic investments in land conservation as a way to protect natural habitats and residents' access to nature. Do you plan to continue this work? And if so, how do you balance the priority of open space against the need for housing? And I will start with you, Councilmember Zahilay.
Yeah, I think it is important to give the last executive his flowers on this. He was a great champion for the environment. I hear stories whenever I go out to the rural areas of people saying Dow was a champion for defending the urban growth boundary, and that's exactly what kind of executive I would be as well. I think for our economy, for our climate, for preserving our natural lands, our rural lands, our agricultural lands, we have to continue to direct development and services into the urban core and really be pretty vigilant about defending that urban growth boundary as mandated by the growth Management Act. And so we have a lot of tools in our toolkit to make that happen, where King County has a lot of programs for buying up agricultural lands, forest lands, giving developers certain incentives to go build out in the urban areas. I would make sure that we continue scaling those up, investing in them, because we all rely on having a healthy rural and agricultural area. That's where we grow our food. That's where so many people enjoy the natural beauty of our region, and the next executive is absolutely going to have to protect that.
That is time. Thank you so much. Councilmember Balducci.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things that we did under Executive Constantine's leadership was we maxed out a dedicated funding source called the Conservation Futures Fund that is primarily what we use as funding to buy up and conserve open space. And we have done an awful lot of that. And in fact, he called it the initiative for the last best places, because we're getting very close to conserving all of the sorts of space that the county ought to own. Lots of open space is not ours, it's the state's, it's the tribes. But we've done a very good job of this. I would like us to turn to thinking about how we invest in protecting those spaces. How do we protect against wildfires, an increasing problem as climate change comes on? How do we protect our water quality? Having the open space is a water quality play, but within the urban areas, stormwater pollution is a terrible problem. We're killing off salmon with our tire dust, and we're not doing all the investments we need to do in our wastewater treatment system.
And that is time. Thank you so much for answering that.
All right, I have a simple but could be a difficult question for them. I want to know, what single thing would you do day one to make the lives of people in King County better as King County executive? Claudia Balducci, we'll go with you first.
I'll say the most urgent thing on my mind would be to really lean into providing more shelter for people on the streets. I don't know if you could do that day one, but I would want to start investing in that outreach program that we de-invested in under Councilmember Zahilay's leadership when he was budget chair. I want us to lean into more shelter in more places. We could do a lot more, a lot quicker if the executive made it the top priority.
All right, Councilmember Zahilay, we'll let you respond to that, and also tell me what you would do on day one.
Yeah, the number one priority has to be breaking that cycle that we see on the streets of our cities every day, that overlapping cycle of homelessness, addiction, incarceration, and it's a never-ending cycle. And I want to take the steps that are needed to break that. I've brought together the stakeholders who work in permanent supportive housing, in the jail setting, in the healthcare setting, and what they're saying is that there's not enough collaboration and connectivity across all of these assets. So I would bring them together so we can create a true continuum of care across the whole region.
Okay, I want to talk about something that we're all invested in. I think we are anyway. You're wearing a Mariner pin. Professional sports really does
Check out my socks, John.
Oh, he's got the socks as well. Nice. Professional sports really does bring a region together. And in that light, your previous King County executive, Dow Constantine, has been very involved in discussions to try to bring the Sonics back to not just Seattle, King County, the state of Washington, right? Am I right? Will you pick up that baton, and is this an important part of an executive's job? And Councilmember Zahilay, I'll ask you first.
I think it's definitely part of an executive's job. If any of you email me today, I will send you a picture of me as a 8-year-old with my Sonics hat on in the middle of Key Arena. Anybody remember that name? And this year, I was really excited that we continued that tradition because Supersonics legend Gary Payton was actually the host of my annual Hometown Heroes Luncheon. And he came and he signed a bunch of basketballs for people, and I threw it out in the audience. And he told me, Girmay, if you win this race, we have to work together to bring back the Sonics. Now, technically, how much of a role does the King County executive have in bringing them back? I don't know the answer to that. But if you want a champion for Sonics who's going to work actively to make that happen, absolutely count me as a partner.
Okay. Councilmember Balducci.
Thank you. We've talked about a lot of deep topics here tonight: homelessness, public safety, housing shortages. One of the things that brings us together and makes life joyful are things like arts, culture, sports. It binds us together, especially in a time when things are so divisive, when people are tearing us apart politically and elsewise. I've been a huge champion and, in fact, helped to lead the largest in the nation arts and culture investment that we do here called Doors Open for that very reason, because we need to have these things that bind us together. the county has got some tools that we can use to help be part of a partnership to bring back the Sonics. We can't do it ourselves, but we've got some land use tools, we've got some financing tools. This has been tried before. The location was the challenge, but I think the county should be there to help if a location can be found. And I just want to make a pitch. As this region diversifies and people come from all over the world, we should also be working on creating spaces for sports that speak to people who live here now. I've been trying to get a cricket stadium going, and I'd love to talk about that the next year we're back here.
All right, looking forward to that. All right, that's all the time we have. It's time for our closing statements, and Councilmember Balducci, you went second during the opening statements, so you're going to go first during closing. You've got 90 seconds.
Yeah, it's been a really great conversation. I want to thank the City Club and their partners for pulling this together. The opening statements were really meaningful. It is a time when we need to speak together, listen to each other, know that we are on the same side, that we are working towards a better future. I want to give my 25 years of building knowledge, partnerships, experience. I want to take all that political capital and spend it for the people of King County. I have the most experience in this race running a major executive organization, building housing, creating homelessness spaces for people, really attacking all of the different challenges that we have. I'm very proud of my work to expand our transit system, not just light rail, but buses and regional trails and advancing road safety. With the levers the King County Executive has, I would do more of all of that. I am so proud to be endorsed. I have a long list of endorsements. I recommend my website to you. But I'm proud to be endorsed by people who are on the ground doing the work because they know what it takes. 20 mayors, people who are leaders in public safety, in housing, in homelessness, in transit. All of the transportation advocacy agencies in this region have endorsed my candidacy. I want to get to work for the people of King County, and I really hope to earn your vote, and I look forward to working for you.
Okay. Councilmember Zahilay, your closing statements.
I just want to thank everybody again for being part of this important conversation. This is a very important position that we're running for, and it's going to require all of us working together. We heard the stakes of what's happening in this race. Public safety, affordability, homelessness, a federal government that's continuing to attack our region and our communities. There is so much happening. We have a track record of transforming communities. That is our track record. And it's not enough. The issues, like I mentioned before, are too complex and too vast for any one person or any one individual to solve them alone. You mentioned the environment earlier in your question, John. This is the campaign that is in coalition with Washington Conservation Action, the largest environmental network in the state, and they have endorsed our campaign. We're the only campaign in the race endorsed by any tribal nations who are the greatest stewards of our environment ever. We are the campaign that is trusted by the governor, the attorney general, more state-level elected officials than any other candidate. Those relationships matter. We're the only candidate who is endorsed by any King County council members. We have to work with the council on budget issues. We're the candidate who is endorsed by the members of Congress who represent King County, Adam Smith, Pramila Jayapal. Those relationships are going to matter in terms of protecting our region from the actions of this federal government. We can go on and on and on, but I'm not running just about my abilities. I'm running about our ability to work together to solve problems. I hope you'll work with us. Thank you so much.
We have come to the end of our evening. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Please make sure to vote. You can register online or by mail until October 27th. Of course, Election Day is November 4th. I'd like to thank my co-moderator, Angela Poe-Russell with Converge Media. Always good to have her here. And all of you in the audience as well. You've been silent this whole time. But let's thank our candidates, Claudia Balducci and Girmay Zahilay. Have a great night.
Thank you to you. Thank you.
Getting a flu shot helps us stay healthy, so we don't miss out on what matters. Like that family movie night your daughter can't live without. Yeah, can't do that. Every year, millions of people in the U.S. get the flu. Especially now, no one has time to miss out on moments that matter. So get your flu shot. Find out more at getmyflushot.org. Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
You took the first step and quit smoking. But even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
G and Ursula on KIRO News Radio.
You're not going to be able to stop what's going to happen.
I hope he's successful.
9 to noon. Streaming or
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Peter King. Israel has responded favorably to Hamas's announcement that it would accept many of the provisions in the Trump peace proposal, including the release of hostages. CBS's Deborah Patta is in East Jerusalem.
While Hamas stopped short of agreeing to everything in the U.S. proposal, this is a significant development and the closest we've come to a deal to end the war since it started almost 2 years ago. Hamas says it is willing to release all the remaining hostages, both living and dead, and that it will hand over power to an independent Palestinian body.
Prosecutors wanted more than a decade in prison for Sean Diddy Combs. The judge sentenced him to less than half of that for sex crimes that included girlfriends as pawns. CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson.
He also talked about the idea that there needed to be a deterrent effect here, that people need to be held accountable for these types of crimes, and that obviously when it comes to punishment, we're looking just at the person who actually committed the crime, but also at the message this sends to the public.
Los Angeles police have arrested the man they say deliberately drove his car onto the City Hall steps and barricaded himself inside for 2 hours. KNX Radio's Craig Figner.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass says he appears to be older, that he's in custody, and there was a political sign in his vehicle.
Yes, his car started smoking. It's not really clear what that was about. He had a sign on his car that said, I need your help, D. Trump.
The government shutdown heads into next week, and as the days go on, services available to Americans who pay taxes for them are fewer. Eric King is a furloughed fiscal management employee and says the recent DOGE cuts have hurt services and reputations.
These cuts, as on one side where people say government is big, the point is we're big because we serve the American public. We're here because one of the things you can say is that we continue to do our job. We're still delivering and making sure that America continues to run.
The Supreme Court's next session starts Monday, and it's agreed to hear a challenge to Hawaii's ban on carrying concealed weapons on private property without the owner's express consent. Some context from CBS